Once again, this is your host, Attorney Jamie Wright, and this is the beginning of part 2 of our interview with Chief Deputy District Attorney Jackie Lacey, who is a candidate for the District Attorney's Office in Los Angeles County. And one of the things that there has been an increase in as a spike is, cybercrimes. Identity theft, online piracy, it ranges the gamut. And with Twitter and Facebook and, Instagram, it'll steadily increase. How will you sort of expand or create resources so that your DAs working underneath you are prepared to prosecute those crimes, since the law seems to be slow with catching up with that?
The first day I announced I was running or declared I was running, which was June of 2012, of the numerous candidates who were running, I was the first one to say that this was an important problem that needed to be addressed. And what I'm concerned about, Jamie, is identity theft. There are a lot of cyber crimes, but identity theft is the one that worries me the most. Mm-hmm. I've had my identity compromised twice using someone copying my ATM card. Yeah. And the more I talk to people, it happens a lot.
It's happened to me twice.
Yes. And no matter how careful you are, these folks, they use it, they get away with it, and no one finds out who they are. The criminals are ahead of us a bit, but we can catch up. Our office, the LA County DA's office, has a high-tech crimes unit. It's an elite group of lawyers who go after the folks who commit the larger crimes. But all of our prosecutors need to be trained on how to prosecute those cases, and the police need to be trained on how to investigate them. All police need to be trained. And so I would institute a program where we started with that training. We've already done some training, but we really need to do follow-up training and continue to make sure that we all are on that new frontier. Because what we're finding is people don't have to pick your pockets anymore. They don't have to steal your purse. No. They get your Social Security number, they get one credit card, and they're off to the races. Yeah. And that's wrong. Yeah. That's wrong. And a lot of times those costs, those losses are passed on to us, the consumer. When you get the letter at the end of the year from the bank telling you they're raising your fees, that's about the unaddressed identity theft. That's what that's about. So we can do better. And certainly with the tools that we have, we can find these folks and apprehend them and make sure they're accountable.
Okay. And let's talk about the community and LA County being diverse. And some people perceive in the office that, the prosecution is obviously skewed in favor of one group versus the other, that African Americans and Latinos are prosecuted more times than not than someone who is not. And as a Black woman, how would you address this? Not that you would, have a bias in favor of people of color, but how would you address this as being a leader who reflects sometimes the color, at least of those in those communities that have that concern?
My experience with the criminal justice system is that victims at times are overrepresented by people of color, that people in poorer neighborhoods are victimized probably a lot more than most people imagine. The criminal justice system has to be more transparent so that people know how these decisions are made and why these decisions are made. And so one of the things I want to do is provide more forums for that transparency. I want you to know why a certain case was filed, why a certain case was rejected. And I think a lot of this transparency can be accomplished through partnerships in the community, which I've already started to establish and will continue to keep up as I go along, for the prosecutor to listen without bristling up if there are criticisms, if there are questions. It is hard. I grew up in an African-American community where 90% of the people who I lived with were African-Americans. I grew up listening to complaints about racial profiling, about abuse. I was a kid during the riots in the 60s and very much aware of what was going on. But the face of law enforcement and the face of prosecutors, Jamie, is changing. Look around. Look around. We are so much more diverse. The DA's office is so much more diverse than it used to be when I started in 1986. Right now there are 55% women, and we've never been that high in women. And so I think as the face of those who are meting out justice changes, the perception by the community should change because they have someone in there who understands and who has empathy.
Okay. So are you tough on crime?
Definitely. Do not commit violent crime. It chafes my hide.
Okay.
When I was a prosecutor, I loved to have the opponent underestimate me because they had no idea how driven I was. I have a very calm demeanor. But rest assured that if someone commits a violent crime, if someone harms someone, if someone breaks the law, and they commit a serious crime against this community, I have no problem making them pay.
Okay. Public corruption. We've seen a lot of that in the last 5 years. The city of Bell, different issues. And obviously being an elected official, that puts you kind of in a plateau where you're a public figure. And those people may or may not be your friends, may or may not have endorsed you. How will you deal with that, balancing the responsibility to the public and also dealing with the fact that you have to be careful about the relationships that you form with public officials?
Well, no one is above the law. No elected official is above the law. No one has relationships with me such that they should expect any special favoritism should they be investigated. Okay. One of the things that I love about this office that I'm running for is that it is a nonpartisan office. Okay. And that's very important, particularly with the Public Integrity Unit, because the last thing you want is someone claiming, well, you're a Republican and you're going after all the Democrats, or you're a Democrat and you're going after all the Republicans. The DA needs to play it non-political. In other words, you cannot engage in heavy partisanship, because as soon as you do, it's just the luck of the draw. The next person that comes in the office to be prosecuted for a case is going to be someone who is not of the same political party as you. Mm-hmm. And so that is one thing that I think the current DA has really done well in terms of not being someone who is highly political, understanding that our role is, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, or an independent or apolitical, you're entitled to that same justice. And that's what I intend to carry out as DA of L.A. County.
Okay. And so with the office of over 1,000 lawyers, how will you keep morale high?
It's going to be challenging. In terms of the pay scale for lawyers, prosecutors, if you're just basing morale on pay, are not the highest paid lawyers in our society. Yet the demands are just as much. I mean, the stakes are so high when you're talking about your work, whether a murderer goes free, whether a criminal goes free, whether someone gets treated fairly, depends upon your work ethic and your ethics as a human being. And one of the things that I feel that prosecutors need is more recognition. They need a leader who understands and supports them, who cares about what they do, who, instead of lifting his or herself up, knows how to lift others up. Sure. And I have spent a lot of time studying morale and fostering it. My first assignment that I talked about, where I was head of central operations, the morale was not that great. When I came in, people wanted to leave. By the time I finished after 4 years building morale, people were lined up to come in and work for me. And I'm very proud of that particular accomplishment. The public may not care, but I care, because when morale is high, and we all know this from working in situations, if morale is high, people will do more than what's expected. When morale is low, they can't wait to get out of there.
That's true.
They do the bare minimum that they need. So the stakes are very high in the prosecutor's office in terms of morale. And we need great morale in order to ensure that our prosecutors deliver the best justice they can.
And in order to deliver the best justice and increase some of the things that we've talked about, like environmental crime prosecution, there have been hiring freezes off and on. So how will you advocate for more resources, or what will the process be in order to continue to hire more lawyers that will come into the DA's office?
Well, Jamie, you have to manage the existing resources adequately, and I've seen how that's done. In the last 2 months, we've hired 40 prosecutors, and we'll probably hire another 20. And this is in the midst of hiring freezes. You have to manage what you have well. We cut down a lot on travel and other expenses so that we could maintain our staffing level. And you have to know what your priorities are. So it's there. One thing I didn't mention, there are courts closing, which is a shame in the court system, but those courts closing actually for our office could help in the end, because then we don't have to have a prosecutor stationed in that courtroom running it. We can use that prosecutor, for instance, to add to high-tech crime, add to the public integrity unit, add to maybe our elder abuse unit, because there are a lot more baby boomers now who are getting into the what I call the ARP age, and there's a lot of crime committed on our elderly, a lot of scams, and I would like to see more resources, more DAs also trained to do those kinds of crimes and do more outreach and tell seniors, don't pick up the phone when someone calls and says some loved one is in jail and wire me money, and don't tell anybody, because that's a scam. So there's a lot of opportunities. We have the luxury, because we have 1,000 lawyers, 2,100 employees, we can shift, we can respond.
Okay. All right. And then, as a woman, you obviously, holding such a high-ranking position, people talk a lot about work-life balance. And how would you be able to balance all the responsibilities that you have?
Well, the same way my predecessors have, right? Okay. You set your priorities. What's important for you to do personally, you do. But those things that are not personally, you rely on friends and outsource a lot of things that you traditionally would do. I obviously won't be cooking Christmas dinner this year. But you know what? My son is in culinary school, so I've told him, guess what? You're going to be you're going to cook Christmas dinner this year, because I'm going to be busy in December. But I think that this is something, as a woman, when you're a mom, I'm a mom of 2 kids. I've actually mothered 3 kids, and I did that during the time that I was trying some of my more serious, high-profile cases. And you get through that by learning to prioritize, by learning to, to carpool. You learn the value of trading, your time with another person's time. You learn to reach out, and I think that's one of the best things. I often say that during the time that I was trying my most serious murder cases, I had 3 children in my household who were 14, 16, and 18 years old.
Teenagers.
That's right. And during that time, I was trying my most serious cases. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter, and during that time, my cases were all tried successfully. My children and my nephew all graduated from high school on time. I didn't miss many games at all. I was always there. And so it can be done. And being the DA of L.A. County, it's my honor to make it work, and I will.
Okay. And are you a faith-based person?
I am.
Do you ever feel conflicted by anything in the law? I mean, oftentimes you see movies like The Devil's Advocate portraying lawyers as being satanic or evil. Do you ever feel conflicted, and how do you deal with that conflict? And
Well, my faith, my beliefs really help me. I don't feel conflicted. I realize that I am where I am because of the faith that my mother and my grandmother and my father had. And my faith energizes me because I rely on God so much to allow, to just strengthen me as I walk through the shadow of the valley of death. And what that means is, there are a lot of times you're confronted with a lot of issues and with a lot of not so nice people who don't, really don't, are harmful and want to harm you. But I just believe that this is the journey I am supposed to take. I am supposed to run for District Attorney of L.A. County. I am supposed to take that leadership role, and I'm ready to do it.
Okay. And if there was sort of a takeaway point that you would want people to know about you to make their decision clear when November comes, what would that be?
What I'd want them to know about me is that you have a career prosecutor who has done the time in the trenches, prosecuted 60 felony jury trials, and for the last 12 years has been a leader in that office, because I've gone beyond what many trial lawyers do. And that I want to serve as your next District Attorney of L.A. County because I believe I'm qualified and that I have the commitment and the knowledge and the temperament and the judgment and the wisdom to do so. And that I want you to trust me with your justice, trust me with your public safety, because I believe that I am the best person for that job.
Okay. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you again answering these questions. And where can people learn more about your campaign?
Well, I have a website.
Okay.
It's JackieLacey.com, and Lacey is spelled Lacey.
Yeah.
And there you can learn a lot about some of the things I've been involved in that we didn't have time to talk about today. And you can get involved in my campaign, which we would love.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Chief Deputy District Attorney Lacey. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, this is your host, Attorney Jamey Wright, and this is a Newswire L.A. Extra.
Hi, I'm Tricia Mitchell with Newswire L.A., and we're here with Assemblyman Mike Davis as he bids for the L.A. City 9th District Council seat. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Tell us, first of all, about Mike Davis and how you're connected.
Well, I've been here in Los Angeles since 1980s, and I have been committed to public service and had a passion for public service even in college. Since being here, I've done graduate work here at several universities, but most importantly, I've had a chance to work with some of the greatest leaders, not only in the state of California, but in this country. I started my career as a field representative with Assemblywoman Maxine Waters and worked up to her chief of her Los Angeles office. After that, I worked with her as her district director in her congressional seat her first term. And then additionally, I worked with Supervisor Yvonne Burke as her senior deputy county supervisor. And so both of those leaders, both of whom have been outstanding, have given me the kind of experience at 3 levels of government that I think makes me qualified to continue to serve this area, in particular, Los Angeles City Council.
And in going for this bid, what is it that you think you will change on a local level different than on the state level?
Well, I'll first tell you that what is similar in all public service is a passion to improve the quality of life. What will be different is that the assignment to city government differs in many ways in terms of you're able to often touch and feel constituents closer in terms of public works projects, beautification of the city, transportation, and so that you directly are more involved on an everyday basis as opposed to being away in Sacramento doing big bills or in Washington doing even larger bills. So that would be the difference. It is more hands-on at the city level.
Now, how do you think that the current redistricting that just happened will affect your bid?
The jury is still out on the redistricting because in the process they have a committee, a commission appointed by the city council members. The second phase is the council members vote on a proposal, and they have already. But the third is that the mayor makes a final determination. That has not occurred yet. So we don't know what in fact the mayor will do. He has the option to do some alterations. However, having said all of that, as it goes through the process, I will look at the district in terms of how it will exist and identify both the strengths as well as the weaknesses. I've heard a lot about the weaknesses, but I think we have to also look at what the strengths are. And I will manage from accenting the strengths will be my method of management.
Now, it has been said that the city of Los Angeles is in a bit of a dire straits in terms of their finances and possibly bankruptcy. What do you think as a candidate can be done or should be done or will be done once you're in office to rectify that? And we all know that it can't happen overnight, but what would you start with?
As a legislator, I can tell you firsthand that the state legislature and the state of California hasn't actually easily balanced its very own budget. And all of us know we are in an era where the economy is in question. And certainly, because the city depends upon both state and federal government, it would too. I think that at the end of the day, the same challenge in the state is the same challenge at the city. Getting revenues. How can we obtain opportunities to get revenues that is fair and that is just? What kinds of fees, unfortunately? What kind of taxes, unfortunately? Or what other kinds of means can we employ, or as an administrator, can we execute? Do we have to reduce services in some areas? I would suspect we'd have to do a combination of those. We'd have to reduce perhaps in some areas where we can most afford to do so. And then on the other hand, we would have to try to figure out how we can generate more revenues to reinvest back into the services provided by the city.
As far as faith, what would you have to say to the Angelenos about running for office?
Well, I think that if you try to move from a position of fairness and justice, that always brings people together, and that certainly has always been my goal, and it will continue to be my goal, to make sure that every community has an equal opportunity to be heard and an equal opportunity to participate, and that when we implement programs that we take very seriously the opportunities that each community needs. And so I think to move from that will help bring people together in the city of Los Angeles. And it is my hope that they will appreciate that method of operating our city government.
Very good. Thank you so much for speaking with us, and good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Yeah. I'm here sitting with attorney Renee Campbell, who is hosting the campaign fundraiser for Assemblyman Mike Davis. Hi, Renee. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you today?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for hosting. Tell me, what are the specific attributes about Mike Davis that you like so much? I know you said you've known him for over 20 years. What can you tell us?
You know, Mike is one of the can-do people. You know, you meet people that are going to do or, want to do or, think about what they're going to do or how they're going to do it. But Mike really is a person that you can count on that's going to put into action a plan. And as long as I've known him, if I call him up and I say, Mike, I'm involved in this situation and, we want to do this to try to get some money, he says, okay, tell me what you need. And then he produces. And you know what? when you're trying to work for people that are in need, work for organizations that are in need, and you have somebody like that, it is so important, and it is so important to get things done, and he's one of those people that does it.
What is the one issue in the 9th District, or even in all of the districts, that you would like to see dealt with after this next election?
Well, the 9th District has been reorganized, and Mike, I love his attitude about that. I was concerned when the redistricting took away a lot of the major assets, a lot of the crown jewels, frankly, of the 9th District. And so he has a great attitude about that. He says, that's okay, we have SC, we still have LA Live. LA Live is so important to Los Angeles in general, not only the 9th District in particular, but in general, because LA Live allows LA to become a destination city for conferences. These big conferences that they have, really worldwide, they can now come to Los Angeles and go to the Marriott, go to all the restaurants that are around there, and to our convention center. And I think Mike is going to really take advantage of that and take it to another level. And then if the football stadium comes in, then it's going to really help the economy of the city of Los Angeles. It's going to exponentially. It's going to just take us off the map. And I think Mike is the person that can do that.
So one last thing, I would like for you to look into the camera and give Mike Davis a shout out for his run for city council.
Mike, I know that number one, you're qualified. Number two, you have the resources. And number three, you have the stamina to get this job done. And I'm going to be there with you every step of the way. All right, let's do it.
And that's it for Newswire L.A. at Assemblyman Mike Davis's campaign fundraiser here in Baldwin Hills. We'll see you next time.
That concludes our interview. As always, you can catch us on Facebook and Twitter, and make sure you tune in to future broadcasts. This is your host, Jamey Wright, signing off.